Hello and welcome to the Try Talking Sport podcast hosted by me, Joanne Murphy. Whether you are an athlete, adventurer, endurance enthusiast or simply have an interest in sport, you have come to the right place for inspiration, encouragement, motivation and as always a little bit of entertainment. Happy New Year! I hope you had a good start to 2022. We won't feel the weeks passing now until it is warm and sunny enough to wear shorts on the bike again. Oh, bring on those warm days. I had a very quiet Christmas and took an extended break, dipping in and out of work last week, getting a few bits done and lots of plans in place before leaping headfirst back into reality this week. It was great to reduce my screen time for a bit, if only just for a few hours a day. I have been clearing out and decluttering my house over Christmas, so that has kept me out of trouble and kept me busy, along with racking up some miles on the bike. I'm forever trying to get the house decluttered. I make a great start and then run out of steam, getting distracted by invites for coffee or bike rides or some other adventures. This time though, I am determined to see it through. In other personal news, I got my braces off this week. Yahoo! A little over 9 months on my top teeth and they are done. Still a bit to go on the lower teeth, but the pain and hassle was totally worth it. I've been racking up the miles on the turbo the last few weeks. God bless Zwift is all I can say. I've mentioned previously that I have big plans for the bike this year and I'm both excited and a little apprehensive to take on my first solo ultra bike race in March. Both Karen Cassidy and I are going to be flying the flag for the Galway Babes at the Ballinrobe 12-hour ultra, a new event on the cycling calendar for 2022 being delivered by the team at Raceface Events in Mayo. Karen, a previous podcast guest and female solo winner of the Mondello 24, has ambitious plans for this year, including going solo at the Western Challenge in Galway in June and the Race Around Ireland Ultra in August. Inspired by her and also cajoled and convinced into entering the event by her, I'm taking the plunge into a solo race myself this year, and who knows where the road may lead me. At the moment, all roads lead to Ballinrobe in March. If you fancy an early season challenge, why not come and join us? There is a 6-hour and 12-hour race with options for solos, pairs and teams of 4 to participate. More details on the Try Talking Sport website or pop me a message to find out more. A crew that know exactly where they are headed this week are the team of 6 extreme swimmers led by previous podcast guest and ice swimmer Ger Kennedy as they attempt to swim in skins from Ireland to Scotland this Friday. Yes, in skins from Ireland to Scotland. A historic achievement when completed, as the swim from Ireland to Scotland has never previously been completed in the winter. The swim should take the team of Ger Kennedy, Dave Berry, Declan Bradshaw, Vincent Dunnigan, Culla Morris and the only female athlete, Niamh McCarthy, around 15 hours to complete. You can follow their progress on the tracker and read more about their attempt on the Try Talking Sport website. Best of luck to the team and crew. Also taking place this weekend is Momentum 2022, hosted by George Anderson and another previous podcast guest of ours, the ultra endurance runner Jerry Duffy. They will be joined by Maura Geary, David Mead and Jen Martin to deliver the popular annual goal-setting, mindset-building, personal development event virtually this year. Check out the details on our website. There is still time to sign up. With the new year in full swing, Gillian Mooney's nutrition event, Building Metabolism to Boost Endurance Cycling Performance, was very popular on Tuesday night and looks like a second event might be in the pipeline over the coming weeks. So keep an eye out for this if you missed the first one. It's certainly an event of interest to cyclists of all levels planning on going long in 2022 and beyond. If you fancy getting stuck into some early season triathlon, duathlon, swim, cycle or run racing this year, check out the Castle Race Series virtual events taking place from January to March. Whet your appetite for real life racing whilst you embrace the opportunity to race at home in your own time. There are 14 races to choose from across 5 disciplines and you can complete your race at any time throughout the race weekend. Check out the details on www.castleraceseries.com. Finally, a big shout out to everyone who won prizes across the Try Talking Sport December Fitness Challenge and the Christmas Cracker giveaway. Huge thanks to those who sponsored prizes including Nuasan, Run Galway Bay, Lochcutra Triathlon, Hardman Events, Amphibian King, Mary Bikes, Amphibia, Dublin City Triathlon, Crooked Lake Triathlon, Top of the Mourne Triathlon and Momentum. Find out who won prizes over on www.trytalkingsport.com. Right, now to introduce this week's guest, Mark Coady, 27-year-old primary school teacher from Youghal in County Cork who took on the epic challenge on the 2nd of January to complete a 24-hour triathlon in support of the Irish Cancer Society. Whilst most of the rest of us were wondering if it was still okay to eat a selection box before lunch or if it was too early in the morning at 11 a.m. to have a Bailey's coffee, #me in particular, Mark was embarking on a personal challenge to complete 3 hours of swimming, 12 hours of cycling and 9 hours of running to give him a total of 24 hours moving time across 27 hours. Following the disappointment of the cancellation of Ironman Cork in 2021 due to COVID-19 and on the back of a cancer diagnosis received by his dad last year, Mark turned his disappointment of the race cancellation to dedication, and spurred on by the opportunity to raise funds for the Cancer Society, he set about training for his biggest and most difficult endurance event to date. A multiple Dublin Marathon finisher, he stepped into the world of triathlon and indeed long distance triathlon when the inaugural Ironman Ireland took place in Youghal in 2019. Bitten by the triathlon bug, he had big plans to race the event again along with his fellow Tri-Club members at South Coast Triathlon the following year, but alas it was not meant to be. As we all know, Youghal and its people embraced Ironman in 2019. The spectator support of the event was simply incredible. Despite the weather, with athletes battling the conditions, capturing the hearts of the gathered crowds, the people of Youghal provided the warmest of welcomes on a day where you would have been drier and warmer had you stood in the sea for an hour. This new year, it was Mark Coady who captured the hearts of the local community with his 24-hour triathlon as people came out to support his efforts. Battling horrendously wet and cold weather conditions, his mind and body, although tired, were strong to the end. Supported by a wonderful crew of family, friends, fellow Tri-Club members and the wider community, he completed his challenge with a brilliant smile on his face despite what he had just achieved. In this episode, we catch a glimpse of those 24 hours of swim, bike and run, getting the inside track on the training and preparation required to embark on the challenge, with details on how the day unfolded as Mark went all in to deliver a very special day not only for himself and his family, but for the people of Youghal. Now, go grab a cuppa and enjoy the show. It sure is a great one. Mark Coady, welcome to the Try Talking Sport podcast. How are you?
I'm very good. Thanks, Joanne, for having me. Not too bad now.
How's the body? You're 2 days after your 24-hour triathlon. How has the recovery been?
Yeah, the recovery has gone well. Actually, it's better than expected. So it's plenty of rest and plenty of food since it all finished. But yeah, legs are a little bit stiff and but nothing that wasn't to be expected. No, better than I thought I would be now, to be honest.
Tell me, what's the story? A 24-hour triathlon, what exactly did you do?
So I started off firstly with swim. The swim was 3 hours. It took place in a pool just because of the time of year it was. Thanks to Club Vita in Youghal for allowing me to use the facilities out there. They opened up a couple of hours before their usual opening times just to facilitate it. So yeah, that was the start. It was a 3-hour pool swim. I came out then and it was into 12 hours on the bike. And then after the bike then and after T2, the run was 9 hours, which ended up being kind of a run walk really towards the end of it. But yeah, that's what the day entailed. I suppose the whole event itself took about 27 hours. It was 24 hours of swimming, biking and running, and any kind of bit of break in between. And the bike loops or T1 or T2 were not included in the 24 hours.
It really was 24 hours of movement and activity over 27 hours or so, wasn't it? It was just after 9 o'clock you finished on Monday morning.
It was just after 9 o'clock I finished on Monday morning, and it started on the 6 o'clock on the Sunday morning. So it was just about the 27 hours.
How did you come up with the plan of swimming for 3 hours, biking 300k and then running for 9 hours? Like, where did the breakdown come from, or how did you work out what you would do?
The idea came to me there, I suppose August or September in 2021. I was just out on the bike by myself. I suppose I had too much time to think, and I'd be often coming up with these kind of challenges or ideas and stuff. And this idea of 24 hours popped into my head, and I didn't really know what way I'd break it down at the time. But I suppose I was just thinking then of kind of usually in the Ironman races, the way the pros would finish roughly around the 8 hour mark. And I kind of based it off of Jan Frodeno's time in Kona in 2019. And I suppose just rounding off each discipline to the nearest hour and multiplying it by 3 is where I came up with the 3 times that I was going to do each discipline.
What distance is the pool in Club Vita in Youghal?
It's a 20-metre pool.
So you swam 3k in a 20-metre pool and you only breathe from one side?
I do, yeah. I had to swap it up all right for a few lengths just to kind of give the neck a bit of a rest. I suppose I was kind of getting a bit achy there after a couple of hours and stuff. And I threw in a bit of backstroke as well, just 100 meters, maybe an hour or an hour and a half into it, just to kind of break it up for myself as well. But No, I'm not great at the backstroke either. So I did about 100 meters, and I was kind of straight back into the normal front crawl, because that's all about I could do properly.
Before we go and talk about some of the training and the nutrition and the specifics around the 24-hour challenge, tell the listeners a little bit about yourself and your background in sport.
I'm from Youghal. I'm a primary teacher in Youghal. I'm 27 years old. I suppose background in sport, I'd have always played team sports, underage, GA, rugby, soccer. I'd have played a bit of tennis and a bit of snooker and the whole lot. So I always had a big interest in all sports. I suppose really got into athletics then, into a bit of running back around 2016. Myself and my cousin Ryan would have done a bit of running together. We were kind of out casually jogging one day and decided that we'd enter the Dublin Marathon and kind of put our efforts towards that. And yeah, I've done the Dublin Marathon in the last kind of few years since then that it was on. And yeah, myself and Ryan, as I said, did it together in 2016, and then myself and Chloe then would have done it a couple of years together. So I was always kind of into the running and kind of like the endurance side of sports, and never had really done triathlon until the Ironman was announced for Youghal. And after it was announced, then I suppose the day the registration opened, I signed up for the Ironman and joined South Coast Triathlon Club on the same day. So I said I'd just go all in and hope for the best and put all the efforts into training for that then for the year.
So did you do the very first Ironman in Youghal in 2019?
I did, yeah.
Okay, so is it your fault then that we had the bad weather in Cork in 2019? Because I know you had biblical weather at the weekend for your 24-hour triathlon.
I did, and it was actually, it was a thought I had actually during the night of the run when the weather turned bad. I was wondering, would the weather have been okay in Ironman 2019 if I wasn't in it? I don't know, was it just something that was following me around when I tried to do long distance triathlon?
And how did you do at Ironman?
Grand, I finished it. I suppose I was 13 hours. So at the time, I was just happy to get around it, really. Unfortunately, there was no swim at the time. So I suppose I have a target to beat for when it comes around again next August, hopefully.
Tell me a little bit about why you chose to support the Irish Cancer Society.
Yeah, well, I suppose, unfortunately, my father was diagnosed with cancer back in May of 2021. He's doing grand now and stuff, but I suppose when that happened, and I've been always training and kind of, I enjoy the training, so I kind of train year round anyway. But when that happened, I decided I'd like to do something, I suppose, just to raise funds for the Irish Cancer Society. Unfortunately, we're not the only family that are affected by cancer. It's something that too many people have to face. So yeah, I suppose the Irish Cancer Society is a charity that does great work and can offer support to lots of people. So just put the efforts from training into trying to raise funds for them, hopefully help out people.
I believe to date, as of today, you have just over €10,000 raised through your efforts. Did you ever think you were going to raise that much money?
No, I didn't. And I mean, kind of people were asking me, where did I set? There was a target on the GoFundMe of 2,500. When I set up the GoFundMe, I didn't even realize you had to pick a target. That was just something that came up as an example. So I just put that in for the sake of it. So really, even when I hit the 2,500, I was delighted with that. Yeah, just to see the money that's in there now is unbelievable. And I have a few kind of donation boxes around shops in Youghal, which I know are collecting a lot as well. Like, so yeah, no, it is unbelievable. The support has been great for the event.
Yeah, you've gotten a lot of support for the event as well, you know, from, I suppose, some of the local radio stations and the newspapers. There's lots of articles been written. But I think there's one thing about the people of Youghal is that an event like the 24-hour challenge or Ironman, it captures the imagination of the local community. And I think the local spirit of the people of Youghal was definitely out in force on Sunday and Monday. Now, I was only part of the WhatsApp group. I was only being sent the videos of the people that were out supporting you, either cycling with you or running with you. But even to just see the amount of people that were out in the rain, standing out in the rain, a bit like Ironman Cork in 2019, cheering you on, was absolutely fantastic. But what is it about the people of Youghal that they just get behind these types of challenges and events?
The support is unbelievable. And yeah, as you said, the people of Youghal, like, they're unreal. You know, the support was unbelievable throughout the night and everything. I didn't expect so many people to be out and to join in. And yeah, I suppose every time I came back from the bike, there was a big crowd gathered around by the clock 8 there, kind of ready to welcome us back from each kind of bike loop. And yeah, I didn't expect anything like that at all, to be honest. I suppose when I came up with this challenge, I just kind of had the idea in my head that I'd be going out myself doing the cycle, and I might pop off on the way home to change the water bottle and go out again. I had no idea the planning it took, or all the work that would have to go into the background, or all the support that I would need on the day. But I got unreal support from the people in the town.
Talk us through some of that support, because I know John Innes was the one who contacted me to kind of lend some support to the event, and he set up our chat today for the podcast. I know he was coaching you through it as well, and Laura was involved, and Kate, his daughter, big shout out to Kate, who was hanging out of car windows, I believe, handing nutrition out to you on the day. Talk me through some of the logistics and planning that went into this event, because it wasn't just about the training that you had to do, which we'll come to, but actually there was a lot of logistics to go into keeping you on the road literally for the 27 hours of 24.
There was, and like I completely underestimated the amount of logistics and planning that had to go into it. And I know you mentioned the Ennis there, and I have to say a huge thanks to them for all the work that they put in leading up to the day and on the day. I mean, I suppose, first of all, as I mentioned with the swim, I had to get the swimming pool opened 2 hours before their normal opening time just to facilitate the event. From there on then, I mean, we had a motorbike official out in front of us on the day, and we had 2 cars at least on the cycles during the daytime. And then we had a 3rd car as well for support for the last 150k in the dark. As well as that, there was kind of physios ready. There was a marquee set up in Barry's Lane in Youghal. So I suppose every time I got back, I was able to get a bit of treatment and stuff like that, a bit of food, and there was spare clothes and everything put in. But I mean, I didn't have to carry any spare tubes, or I just had my 2 bottles. I didn't have to carry any other food or anything like that, really. Joe was all in the car behind me. And even the people who were cycling with me, and kind of Joe, I was able to stay at the back of groups and get a nice spin around the back and not really have to face much of the wind. And like even getting food from the car, there was people that time would drop off and they'd get a bottle when mine was empty, or they'd pick up a bar for me and they'd cycle back up to the group and hand it over. It was great. And couldn't have done it at all without the support that I got on the day, and with all the planning that was put in beforehand from everyone.
And how did you pick your routes? You mentioned there you did 300k on the bike, so you did 2 100k loops and 2 50k loops, which was 300, not 250, which I initially miscalculated, but it was 300k that you did. So, I mean, for people who aren't familiar with Youghal, lots of us that are involved with Ironman will know about notorious Windmill Hill. I presume that wasn't part of the run or the bike course.
No.
But how did you pick the route, the 2 routes that you chose to do on the day?
I kind of spent a lot of my long training cycles and trying out different routes. And I suppose after kind of talking and kind of thinking about things, I thought maybe if I did one long cycle to take out a big chunk of time and a big distance in the daylight, and then kind of I was thinking maybe keep the loops within the town when it got dark. And that's kind of what I had been thinking myself just really before we had decided on loops. I suppose I had a 5.5 or 6 hour training cycle there one weekend, and decided to go off kind of in the direction that the 100 kilometer loop ended up being. But before I got back into Youghal, I kind of cut over a country road then from West Waterford and headed over towards Killa and Middleton, and came back in, and it's kind of sent the plan or the session off to John, and he was able to see where I went from the map and stuff. And it was John's idea then. He was just saying like that the route was fine and it was good, kind of 150k route, but rather than doing the whole thing in one big chunk, to kind of come back into Youghal after 100 kilometers and then from Youghal go up to Middleton and roundabout and back for another 50 kilometers. The thinking behind it was I would be able to stop and kind of refuel, or if I needed to get a bit of physio treatment or anything I could, but also just for the other cyclists who were going to be supporting. Maybe some people wouldn't want to have done 150 kilometers or wouldn't want to be waiting out a country road somewhere to meet us. And people were able to join in for 100 kilometers or 50 kilometers. And we kind of picked the Clock 8 as the focal point then, where we could swap out groups and in with new people then for each distance, whatever they decided themselves.
Mark, what sort of training did you do? And when did you start your training, really? I know you mentioned you train all year round, but how did you plan your training to do a 3-hour swim, 12 hours of cycling and 9 hours of running? I mean, it's much easier to turn around and try and train for a sprint or an Ironman triathlon. You know what your end game is going to be. You're either going to be out for an hour or two, or maybe be out for 10 to 17 hours. But how did you manage the training? Like, what sort of training did you do?
Well, I suppose really I started the training properly for this at the start of October. I had kind of come up with the idea beforehand, but I still had a couple of local races, and I kind of, once the Ironman was cancelled, I put the Metalman Triathlon in Tremor as my A race, and kind of once that was over, then I put all my focus towards training for this. But yeah, like, I started the training in October. The intensity of the sessions went down and kind of the volume went up. But I really enjoyed the sessions, and I love doing them. I think probably from October there must have been a swim or a gym session, I'd say, every morning before work. And then I'd have another session or two maybe in the evenings of the weekdays, and then kind of we had the important sessions then on the weekend. I suppose long run of a Friday evening and long cycle of a Saturday. And sometimes those long cycles were long brick sessions as well, where we could have a long run off the bike as well. And Sundays then there was kind of another gym session or a pool session and an easy swim, sometimes all three of them. I suppose really the longest, I suppose, week I did was maybe about 21 hours. There was kind of 17 hours or so of kind of swimming, biking and running. And there was a big emphasis placed on strength work as well. It was something I kind of would have neglected before, kind of with the thought of, if I go to the gym now, my legs would be sore and I wouldn't be able to cycle properly. But no, it really paid dividends, and it was very important. And yeah, I suppose it was just such a variety of training as well. There's so much training to be done, but you're talking 4 different kind of sports really, and then within each swim, cycle and run, you could have maybe a couple of intervals or a long run or an easy session. So there was always kind of a difference in the sessions each week, and it was just it was just a case of getting through them and ticking them off.
When you say a long session, what was a long swim, bike or run?
I suppose the longest swim I did in training would have ended up with being about 4.5 kilometers or so. It was kind of a bit of a warm up and cool down as well, which I suppose 500 meter maybe intervals thrown in between it. Long cycles would have kind of worked out at 6 hours or so, or there might have been kind of a lot of 5.5 hour bike rides of Saturday with a bit of a run off the bike, and long runs then kind of went up to about 2 hours or so. A lot of the training as well was placed on practicing nutrition and deciding what would be used on the bike and on the run and things like that. I suppose, as I said, the training kind of peaked at 21 hours, and there was a lot of days there was a lot of weeks where there would have been, I suppose, 17 and a half hours. I suppose outside of that as well, then there was a lot of emphasis placed on recovery in between sessions as well. So outside of those 17, 18, 19 hours or whatever, there would have also been another few hours in the week kind of dedicated to getting the legs ready to go again and to keep going for another week.
So when did you sleep?
Yeah, not too often, I suppose. Yeah, I know. Like being a teacher, I was lucky. I had time in my hands after kind of things were ready for the next day and things were corrected. I was able to get on with the training then again. So I'm lucky in that position. I know there's some of the lads I train with and they'd be kind of doing shift work and stuff like that, and I don't know how they train. So I suppose I'm kind of lucky enough in that sense.
You're a primary school teacher. So what class do you teach? What age are the kids?
I teach second class this year. So yeah, the kids will be kind of 7 and 8.
And what did they think of Mr. Coady going off doing this crazy triathlon event during the Christmas holidays when the rest of us were sitting down drinking Baileys and eating turkey and eating selection boxes?
Well, I'd say they probably thought I was a bit crazy, all right. But no, I'd say some of them were excited, and there was even a good few of them came down. I saw them. There was one boy came out after the pool. His grandfather actually was gone cycling with me for the first 100 kilometers, so he was out after I came out of the swim, and there was another few pupils in the class had been down around the clock 8 after I came back from some of the bike legs. So, no, they gave great support, and yeah, I'd say they were very excited as well.
You briefly touched on recovery there, Mark. What was your go-to for recovery when you were training?
My uncle is a physio. Very lucky. So Peter, I was able to go up and I was able to get a fair bit of treatment off him when I needed it. And as well, he was there on the day to give a bit of physio, as well as my granduncle Brian. So between the two of them, they got me around on the day. But other than that, just I suppose small tools like massage guns and things like that were just it made me able to do kind of a few bits myself to keep myself going. And as well as that, then we're lucky enough down in Youghal, we've the grand beach down there, so it was kind of, as cold and all as it was great to be able to get into the sea and give the legs a bit of recovery inside in the sea water as well.
You mentioned nutrition, and we know that when you go to do anything long distance, nutrition can either make or break your race or your event. What did you use to fuel your body for the 24 hours?
Well, starting off with the swim, I would never really kind of have taken any gels or food swimming. So when I went into the pool, I just had 2 bottles. I had one with a bit of tailwind energy and just another one with a bit of electrolytes, just to keep sipping on every now and again. The bike, I suppose, was the main thing. I would have a fierce problem with cramping and stuff like that. So I was making sure I had a lot of electrolytes in the system, making sure I kept the fluids up. In terms of food then, it was just kind of things like chocolate chip brioche buns, Nutri-Grain bars, protein bars, a couple of jellies every now and again, bananas and all. So it was just kind of, I suppose I kept it to normal food really. I had gels kind of in the car ready to go if I needed it, but they were something I didn't want to rely on for such a long event. So I was just kind of keeping it to a lot of solid foods and just trying to eat every half hour on the bike and stay on top of the fluids as well with that. And for the run section then, I was lucky enough, I know Laura and John in us, they had a car out on the road all day with food and stuff. So Laura was driving around for a lot of the night, for the whole night really. And she had the food in the back of the car. So at that stage, I was kind of, the body was starting to kind of give up a little bit. So there was a few bottles of Lucozade and cans of Coke thrown in there as well, and jellies and bits of chocolate, and just trying to revive myself. But yeah, a couple of gels here and there as well for the run, just to get the sugars in. That was really the most of it.
I heard a story that your cousin offered 1 square of chocolate and you laughed at them and said, seriously?
Yeah, I did.
At what stage was that offered?
I'd say we were probably maybe 25 or 26 kilometers into the run, and it was just after we were kind of after coming through a bit of a hailstorm, and that really was after sapping all the energy out of me. And I'd been kind of running alongside him, and he was asking me how was I feeling, and I said, I'm kind of starting to feel a bit empty now. I might get a bit of chocolate. I know there's a big bar in the back of the car, and I had bought the bar the night before, so it was a nice big share size kind of a dairy milk bar that I knew I'd have. And he said, I'll get it for you. And he ran back to the car, and he kind of ran back up alongside me with he was after picking one square off the corner of the bar. So I don't know what he expected me. Was he only trying to give me enough energy to get another 100 meters or so? I don't know what he was planning on, but yeah, he went back and then got me some more after that, thank God.
When you finished then, it was early morning for all of us, but it was crazy time, body clock for you. What were you craving food-wise afterwards, or were you craving anything? Like, were you full up already at that stage that you just wanted like water or a cup of tea?
Yeah, I'd a bottle of water, and then I ended up kind of getting a hot chocolate or something like that after. But in terms of actual solid foods or a proper breakfast, I just wasn't feeling anything at the time. So no, I'd say it was probably another couple of hours before I did actually have a bit of food. I got a nice big bread roll from a deli there somewhere along the way. So
did you get a magnificent breakfast roll or a chicken fillet roll?
Oh, a chicken fillet, all right, yeah, chicken fillet roll.
And a can of Coke.
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. That's
total athlete. Yeah. You were allowed that. You were allowed it.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, I was telling myself I was allowed it anyway. So,
did you look at what sort of calories you burned, or have you a clue as to what you burned and maybe what you might have taken on, and whether there was a massive deficit, or was that something that you were even considering monitoring over the course of the challenge? It's
not something I really thought about. Somebody did ask me after, all right, so I had a look, and I know, and kind of my Garmin was telling me from the pool I was after burning about 2,500 calories, and the bike was about 10,500 calories burned, and then the run was coming in at about just under 7,000 calories, I think, or so. Yeah, it was something I never really thought of actually before it, and I suppose even in the training leading up to it, for my nutrition, like I was never kind of counting calories, or I was never trying to get myself into single digit body fat percentage or anything. It was just a case of making sure I ate healthy, and I suppose ate enough to fuel the sessions and then to recover after sessions. So the numbers were something I wasn't really focused on a whole lot. It was just a case of making sure I was constantly getting food into the system and being able to keep going with that.
And now that you're a couple of days post the event, have you been hungry or craving anything in particular?
I suppose there's still a bit of a craving for chocolate, and I suppose the eating hasn't gone back too healthy yet, but a couple more days and then I'll be back eating healthy again, I suppose. But yeah, there's a bit of everything, I suppose, bits of chocolate and potatoes and the whole lot.
And before the event, Mark, going into it, say Saturday afternoon, Saturday evening, the last maybe couple of hours before you went to bed on Saturday night, like were you nervous? Did you sleep? What was going through your head?
I was kind of lying down in the dark there the night before, and I was thinking I'm definitely after biting off more than I can chew. I was kind of cursing myself for what I was after getting myself into and for kind of putting it out there publicly now. So I had to go through with it. I had no other choice. But no, luckily it all worked out well. But there was definitely a lot of nerves the night before. I suppose it had been a lot of excitement, and I suppose really kind of when the training volume went down then and there was just a lot of time to think about it, I was kind of just excited and just wanted to start it at that stage. But definitely the night before then all that just completely turned to nervousness really.
And when you started swimming then, how did you keep your mind occupied for the 3 hours in the pool? Because it's one thing to be out on the bike and to have a group of people around you or out on the run, hiding in the bushes out of the hailstones in the middle of the night. But when you're in the pool, you can't talk to anybody. You only have yourself and your head.
No, yeah, I suppose I was trying to just, I was probably just having a chat with myself, I suppose, at some stage. There was all sorts going on. I was probably singing songs to myself and everything. There was all sorts happening. But it did. I found it kind of mentally challenging, all right, after an hour and a half or 2 hours, when I'd look at the watch and I'd see that there was so long gone of the swim, but I still had a good chunk left to go. A lot of time I was singing songs to myself, and there was all sorts of genres of music going on there.
I heard there was a few renditions of Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer out on the bike, all right, at one point.
There was. That wasn't me, no, but there was some people behind me, all right, singing away. I think I was too tired at that stage for any singing.
And can I ask, did you ever feel like giving up?
I didn't feel like giving up, no, purely because of the support and the amount of people that were there. I suppose really the lowest, at my lowest point, I suppose it might have been 3:30 or 4 o'clock in the morning and during the run. And I suppose the weather has really kind of taken all the energy from me. But as I mentioned, I'd the physio set up kind of in a marquee below, and I knew I just kind of had to get back there and I could get another bit of treatment or get another shot of energy if I needed it. But I never actually thought of giving up, but that's kind of when I was at my lowest, definitely. And anytime I was getting a bit of a massage and the eyes were closed, and I don't know if I went to sleep, or I don't think I did for a couple of minutes when I was getting a bit of treatment. But there's some parts that definitely are still a blur, and some parts I can't remember fully.
I know we mentioned about the biblical weather we had for Ironman in 2019, but this weather that you had, Mark, I don't think anybody predicted it. It certainly wasn't showing up on any of the weather charts. You had horrendous wind. I know we had wind expected, but the hailstones and the rain, apparently they were like massive balls of hailstones tearing the skin off people nearly. They were so cold and so hard during the challenge.
Yeah, we had kind of, the run route, I suppose, was kind of 9-10 kilometer loops, and it was similar to the Ironman run route from Youghal 2019. Yeah, we had a bit of a shower in the first loop, but it was nothing too bad, and I was able to go back and I kind of just had a quick change of shoes and socks just to make sure that I kept on top of all that kind of stuff. And we headed out then for the second loop, and we were kind of out around the beach, and we could just hear all this noise. There was probably about 7 of us out at the time, and we could hear all this noise in the distance, and we didn't know what it was, and we didn't know if it was rain or something like that. And we were still kind of dry where we were anyway, and then all of a sudden we could just see this white sheet of hail just kind of slowly coming towards us, and we knew that there was nothing we could do really. We were completely out in the open and exposed, and it just absolutely was just belting down, and we could hear it hopping off the cars, and it was actually hurt you really, we were trying to get a bit of shelter under a ditch for a few seconds to see if it would pass, but it was unbelievable. I'd never seen any hail like that before, and I suppose after it passed then it kind of just made things tricky even for the run. The road was kind of a bit slippier, and there was a lot of sludge and kind of frost and stuff on the road then from that point on.
What was the hardest part of the whole thing, the swim, bike or run?
I think the run, just purely, I think I was just mentally tired as well from everything beforehand. I mean, physically the swim was okay, you know, it didn't take much out of the legs or anything like that, and I was able to fuel up again before I went out on the bike. And I suppose, as we mentioned, kind of John and Kate who had all the food in the Jeep behind in the bike, so I was always able to keep on top of that there, and I'd kind of great groups of cyclists out keeping me kind of sheltered from the wind and bringing me around. But and I had great support on the run as well. But I just think, I suppose, the nighttime hours, and I was kind of approaching being 24 hours awake even at that point, and the body was starting to kind of go into shutdown mode a little bit. And yeah, I just had started to get cold. I suppose I mentioned I changed shoes and socks after the first loop, and I did the same again after the second loop, just because there was so much puddles and everything on the floor. But I made a mistake of not changing my top, and I was kind of going around through the town then, and I suppose we were just kind of started the third loop. We weren't long into it, and all of a sudden then I started to get very cold, my chest and stuff, and the teeth started chattering and on, and I knew I was in trouble if I didn't change. So I went back to the support car, and I knew I had left kind of spare clothes in there from the bike. I didn't know if there was run gear in there. I knew there was run gear down the tent, but I wasn't sure about if there would be spare running gear in the car. But I ended up having to change my top, but all I had inside was a thermal bike jacket, which was fine, I suppose, when you're wearing bib tights or bib shorts, because they come up nice and high as well. But I suppose I put this on, I zipped it up, and kind of the end of my stomach was still sticking out and all that. So, in fairness to there's a man there, Eddie, was running along with me as well. He gave me a hat he had, and I got another running jacket off another fella who was out there as well. We kind of passed his car, and he had a spare running jacket. So again, that just shows the support that kind of enabled me to get through it. But that definitely was the hardest, I suppose. The weather you mentioned there, and just that paired with the tiredness from all the effort put in beforehand, and just physically being mentally fatigued from the amount of hours I was awake, I suppose, beforehand, it just all started to come together at that point.
I think, when you do things that are multi-day or when they're after the kind of 12 o'clock at night going into the next day, the witching hour really is 2 o'clock to 6. It's, I found that definitely with Karen Cassidy doing the 24-hour bike race in Mondello. Yeah. Like at 2 o'clock in the morning, I was still okay. But by 4, I was like, oh my God, is this thing ever going to end? I needed the sleep. And it's I suppose it's to do with whatever circadian rhythm that your body has, or whatever way you're able to function. But definitely, even on a night out, you might be tired from, well, when we used to be out, you'd be tired, you'd be starting to get fade at around 2 or 3 o'clock, and then suddenly at 6 you're wide awake again if you were still up. But it's funny how the body kind of rights itself a little bit when you're doing that stuff, and I suppose it's maybe the dawn effect as well, that when you start to see the sun or brightness of the day start to come with sunrise, that your body starts to realize again, okay, we've gotten through this. Have you any funny stories for me from the challenge? I know that you got a great kick out of Chloe, your fiance, when you turn a corner and you'd see her, that it was great to see her, and she actually ran some of the event as well with you, and that was it your grandmother left the Christmas lights on in her house, so every time you passed her house you knew she was thinking of you. And I think I heard that your granddad maybe was one of the first people down at the pool at 5:30 on the Sunday, that there was lots of lovely stories and lots of family support and things like that.
I suppose the only funny story that I have would be I suppose the cousin with the chocolate, and I suppose when I had to give a quick change of clothes halfway around the town, and I ended up with the cycling jacket, which was nearly like a crop top or something on me with the rest of the running gear. But no, I suppose, as you mentioned, like the grandparents there, I turned into the hotel car park at, I suppose I was there just for 5:30 myself, and there was one car that was pulling in just ahead of me. There was no one else, and I thought they were opening up and getting everything ready to go, but it was a grandfather. He was out there before myself and everything, ready to watch a bit of it. And the support from all 4 grandparents was brilliant on the day as well. And I know you were just mentioning there as well about the night time. There was a bit of discussion as well put into it, put into the running route and I suppose the running length. When I had kind of come up with a 24-hour triathlon, I think with the 6 o'clock swim start on the Sunday, John Ennis, who I'm getting coaching from, he was trying to tell me, like, 6 o'clock on the Sunday morning to 6 o'clock on the Monday now, is there 24 hours and everything like that. And when I was in a bad way in the run and I still had kind of 3 hours to go, I had no one else to blame, only myself. He was trying to convince me just to do 6 hours of running and leave it as the whole event being 24 hours. But I think I'd be kicking myself if I kind of stopped then, even though I suppose everyone else would be wouldn't mind. I'd be in my own head, I'd be thinking it was a 21-hour triathlon if I did that. So there was a lot of discussion back and forth beforehand about how long the run would be. So although I was in a bad way and I was kind of hoping for it to end soon, I had no one to blame, only myself at that stage, really.
But I guess nobody can take it away from you. You've done a 24-hour triathlon.
Oh, well, that's it. Yeah. So, yeah, the plan was swim, bike and run. I suppose the run kind of started off as a run and then kind of went to a bit of a shuffle, and then there was a fair bit of walking thrown in there as well, just before the last couple of loops, just to make sure I'd be able to finish it, because the legs were starting to really suffer at that stage. I suppose, yeah, the muscles were they were sore as expected, but it was really my knees and hips and all that kind of stuff were really starting to give a bit of trouble. So yeah, kind of gradually as the night went on, the pace of the run started to slow, even though I wasn't setting any blistering pace from the start. It kind of gradually was getting slower the more I went on.
And it's funny, Sunday evening, I think I went to bed at around 11:30. So you'd have still been on the bike at that stage. I went to bed at 11:30 and the WhatsApp group was flying all day long. There was videos and texts, and whoever was managing your Instagram had stories up and everything. So I could follow your progress. It was like having our own personal tracker of you on the day, and you'd be kind of like, geez, fair play to him, he's flying it, or he's doing really well. But I went to bed and I woke up at about 4 a.m. and I had my phone on airplane mode, as I always do. And I woke up at 4 a.m, don't know why. And I woke up and I was like, geez, I wonder how Mark's getting on. So I put my phone back on and there was not one message in the WhatsApp group. And I thought, oh my God, what's after happening? Jesus, did he make it in off the bike? Oh, sweet divine, what's going on? Nothing in the WhatsApp group. And then I was like, where will I find out? I can't text somebody. So I checked your Instagram and they were still posting stories on your Instagram. So I knew you were still going strong. So I turned my phone back onto airplane mode and went back to sleep. But just so you know that I was thinking of you. I was checking on you. And I on the Monday morning, then we got up to go down for a swim. And I was like, where's the stuff on Mark now? What's happening? There's nothing in the WhatsApp group. And then it all started coming through again. I was like, maybe they were just being nice to people that might have gone to bed and didn't want to be interrupting people's sleep all night. Even though I've never met you, I've only just, the first time we've spoken is actually for the show. I was so fascinated by what you were doing and so, what's the word? Invested in it, just because I wanted you to do so well that and to get it done. But it's funny, you kind of get invested in these things, but you did so well. You must be extremely proud of what you've done.
Yeah, delighted now. Yeah, kind of just thrilled the way it went. And I suppose there's huge credit goes to the club for all the help that they gave. And as you mentioned, like kind of putting updates into the WhatsApp, and I have to give a lot of credit to Chloe as well. I suppose I set up the Instagram just to kind of spread the word about the event, but I wouldn't be the best kind of at using that kind of stuff. So really, she kind of took over and kind of set up all the reels and everything that are up on the page are all kind of from her. And she's the one who was putting up the stories and everything like that throughout the day, kind of when she wasn't running along as well. And she kind of came out on the bike, or for the second 100k loop in the dark, she was kind of driving ahead and she'd park up and take videos every now and again to keep it updated. So there's huge credit as well to Chloe for that. And my sister Laura as well was kind of taking a couple of videos and pictures and sending them on to her to be added up as well. So it was great that people could have the updates on it.
Had you cycled in the dark before?
Never, no. It was strange, but it was actually a great experience. It was something I really enjoyed. And I suppose it wasn't just myself going out to cycle in the dark to try it. It was great that there was a good group of us there, and we had kind of, as I mentioned, we had a car in front and behind of us, and there was another motorbike up ahead of the first car as well. So it was brilliant. It was we were all completely safe and stuff like that. But it was a brilliant experience and something I'd never done before.
Yeah, it's exhilarating cycling at night with a car behind you. I've never done it in a group like you've done, but when we were training for Race Around Ireland and Donegal, and when we did those races, having the car behind you and the lights and you're flying along, and it's amazing. It's such a surreal experience. I want to ask you a couple of questions before we ask some questions that have come in from some of your crew, actually.
Right.
So one of those is, if you were to do something like this again, what would you do differently?
After the experience of how much I kind of suffered during the run, and I suppose the mental fatigue that came with it, maybe, I don't know, something maybe a bit shorter. I'm not sure, but then again, I suppose I'm not long off the event now, and kind of when it all kind of sinks in and settles, I might even choose to do something bigger, or try and beat my distances at the same time or something like that. But yeah, I don't know. I suppose I'd be kind of constantly watching YouTube and Instagram, and I'd see people doing all these challenges, and I'm sure I'll get another idea from something like that.
And would you consider doing like a multi-day event, not necessarily maybe the 24 hours, like a solo endurance cycle, or maybe do something like the Decaman or something that's over a couple of days? Would that be something that might down the line be in your sights?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, like all these kind of endurance events, and you'd see people doing them, and I'd be just kind of, blown away by the effort that people kind of put in to get through them and stuff like that. And that's kind of when I'd be thinking that I wonder if I can do it, or I'd like to try something like that myself. So, something like the Decaman now is kind of something that would be on the radar. All right.
Now, I have mentioned him before on the podcast. Russell Williams from Wales is coming over to Ironman Cork. He's going to do the Ironman 70.3 on the Saturday and the full distance on the Sunday.
Wow. Yeah.
So just to put a little idea in your head, and when I told him about you the other day, he said, "Now he's my kind of guy."
Yeah.
So maybe you might have to meet up and come up with some crazy challenge between you, and one do it in Cork and one do it in Wales.
Yeah, John, that's a great idea, and it's something I wouldn't rule out down the line, although I don't think the family would be too happy to hear me coming up with another challenge anytime soon.
We'll allow you have a little bit of a break now before you go back to training. And of course, you do have to train for the full distance Ironman in August of this year.
Yeah.
Hard to believe it's 2022 already.
Yes.
Okay, so I'm just going to pop over to some of the questions that came in. We had Karen Cliff asked, was there any particular dietary plan that you followed for the event itself in the lead up to it? I know we've spoken about what you took on during the event, but maybe any particular diet or particular foods that you chose in your training?
I suppose really the only thing I specifically stuck to was a breakfast. I'd have a lot of porridge with a banana and a bit of dark chocolate every morning, and maybe a multivitamin drink or something like that. But apart from that, as I mentioned, it was kind of just a case of making sure I eat kind of fairly healthy and just eat enough to get through the trainings and to recover. That was kind of a breakfast I stuck to every morning while I was training. In the months of training before that, there was no kind of special diet, or there was no kind of certain calories I was aiming to hit. When the training dialed down, I kind of kept up the eating, I suppose, to carb load, as you'd say. But other than that, no, there was nothing kind of out of the ordinary I was trying to do.
Karen says, obviously, huge congratulations and brilliant for all other athletes to be involved. Huge kudos to Mark's support team, his coach, family, Tri and teammates. And then Paul Mitchell just passed on some congratulations. Paul says, Mark was inspiring. He was very strong throughout, especially on the first 2 laps of the run that we ran with him. A group of, I think, 7 of us. The rain was not dissimilar to Ironman Youghal, something we joked about. Torrential rain by the leisure centre on the first lap. The second lap, almost at the same spot, it turned into hailstones the size of small golf balls, and we all had to stop and jump for cover under the trees. We couldn't get over running in hailstones, and Youghal streets had turned into ice or slush and treacherous underfoot. He showed superb endeavour and courage. So that's just 2 of the things that have come in from some of your supporters and crew. Now, we did have somebody ask about your training plan as well, but we've kind of already covered that as part of the chat. In terms of a training plan now for Ironman, when do you start going back to doing some sessions? Have you gone for a swim, bike or run yet this week?
Well, I'd probably go for a swim now this evening after this. I'll go for a couple of swims this week, and kind of maybe a few easy spins out on the bike and a couple of short jogs, I suppose, maybe from next week on. And after that, then I suppose the focus turns back to proper training. And the legs should be kind of well recovered then and able to go after a couple of weeks. So yeah, as you said, the the focus for myself now, I suppose my A race for this year is the Ironman in Youghal again when it comes. But in between that then, there's a few events just to kind of keep me going and smaller aims to get to. So I am signed up for the John Tracy 10-mile run in Dungarvan next month. I have an entry for Triathlete, which has rolled over from last year, and I've signed up for the Metal Man again, which is a great race I did last year, so I'm looking forward to that again. And hoping to do the Joy Hannon in Youghal as well. So few events to kind of keep me ticking between now and August, and just keep the training interesting and something to aim towards in between each event.
A full schedule, but the biggest marathon of the lot you didn't mention at all. The biggest marathon, the biggest event you're going to do in August, just before Ironman Cork. You're getting married, like literally the Tuesday before.
I'm getting married the Tuesday before Ironman, so it's something else to look forward to. So it'll be a bit of training for that, all right, I suppose.
Sure, a few months to train for that. You'll have to hold on for the wedding celebrations till after the race. I mean, when was the wedding booked, just out of interest? Was it booked before you knew about Ironman Cork or after you knew about Ironman Cork being in August?
No, it was booked after we knew about it being in August, but I just have one busy week, I suppose, and get everything done into 1 week, and can enjoy the celebrations after both of them.
Brilliant. Well, sure, and you'll be off school as well at the time because it's August, so you'll be grand. You get a few days off before you go back to school. Well, Mark, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Congratulations again on this wonderful challenge. I can't wait to see where you go from here with the next challenge and what you do. And hopefully I will see you on the finish line of Ironman Cork in August of 2022.
Thanks very much, Joanne. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Don't forget you can get in touch with any feedback or guest suggestions by emailing me on trytalkingsport@gmail.com. I'd love to connect on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn and Instagram. Pop by and say hi. Let me know what you think of the show. If you are new to Try Talking Sport, please do check out some of our previous episodes. You will be both impressed and inspired by our guests. Finally, be sure to sign up to our new e-zine featuring articles of interest, some great discounts and the inside track on supporting your triathlon and endurance sport journey. Sign up over on the website. It takes 30 seconds and I promise, I really do promise, I won't bombard your inbox with emails, just the important stuff. Until next time, stay safe, keep smiling and remember to look for fun and adventure in every day.